Have they removed Traoré on the list of the threats of American interest? The question is no. Traoré is still a threat. And when you are a threat, they open a file on you. They organize the economic hitman strategies, from sanctions to many other forms, even mercenaries and poisoning and direct extermination of life. We need one African army. One African army.
Peace and blessings, everybody. I'm your brother Orina, all the way from the motherland, all the way from Kenya, Nairobi, nation's capital. And today I have my elder. This is my favorite guest. Last time he blew this place up. He blew it up. And you know, I'm just happy to have my elder here. Whenever I call him, he answers. And Mzee, thank you so much for welcome to Sell Africa to Africans. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. Been traveling, a bit of cultural experiences I had in Zambia, northwest Zambia, the Lunda Tongos, the Great Zambezi, and yeah, quite a bit of learning to do there from the indigenous kings and tribes, festivals, drums, food, cultural exchange, fashion, and quite interesting. And I shot up into one of the caves there, right up one of the oldest copper mines in Africa. Even believe that the copper that Solomon used and other guys were using is actually on the trade route from Zambia into Tanzania, into the Sudan, right up into Yemen and Jerusalem. So they've got a long history, which dates into the BCs and ADs, where copper was just lying on the ground, and smelters that are in the bushes there, which were used by the ancient fathers in making weapons, instruments, bracelets, jewelries, and many other things. And I got a cave there, which was used actually also as a sanctuary, a training camp for soldiers and stuff like that. Quite interesting, I should say. Quite interesting.
Wow, amazing. And you were in Kenya the other day. You blew the whole place up when it comes to the talks between Trump and Putin. We'll get to that later. But you know, yesterday was the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey's solar return. He was born 138 years ago. We're still celebrating Garvey. I guess my first question to you, Mzee, is what does Marcus Garvey mean to you as we celebrate 138 years of Garvey's legacy?
Marcus Garvey for me represents the generation of thinking Africans. The advantage is that he was educated in the ways of the West. He understood the system and he challenged the system vigorously. However, the problem that we've always faced is that we have separated our politics, our economics, and our culture. And at the end of the day, you end up having Marcus Garvey on one end, Martin Luther on the other end, Malcolm X on the other end, Henry Clark on the other end, and all of them are Africans working for the same objective, except that you don't find all of them sitting in one room and strategically positioning their liberation struggle. And again, you'd understand religion becomes a hindrance to that quality of conversation, because the Islamic world is claiming the Malcolm X's, Christianity and Protestantism is claiming Martin Luther, Garvey's in the Caribbean is becoming more political. So it presents to us a time when Africans started thinking, and even Bob Marley was there, same era, but he was on the musical side. But if you can put all these things in context, you actually be able to see a certain wave of a shift in mindset, challenging of the status quo academically. So the Duplessis and the Henry Clarks, they did quite an astounding work in terms of Egyptology and re-establishing that the history of Egypt is a history of Africa. Anyway, Marcus Garvey was talking repatriation on the other end. And Malcolm X was pushing through the Islamic world, the challenging of the white institutions of religion. And I remember him not as a singular. I remember him in a collective, that he made his meaningful contribution towards the liberation of the African child. And when I was in Jamaica, I actually had the privilege of going to the Marcus Garvey's home in St. Anne's. I think it's St. Anne's. I went to a home, a dilapidated house. You would cry if you go to that house, and yet his face is on the Jamaican money. His face is on the Jamaican money. But the Jamaican government does not even give a slightest amount of support, preservation of such a huge historical figure. When I went to the final place where these books are stored and the center is, it looks terrible. The statue is still there. The grass is overgrown. It is just like a junkyard. The building itself, I was there. The windows are broken. Benches are broken inside, except a small little corner on the first floor, which still have some cabinets that are there, and a few glass things and a chair, of course, and few pictures of Marcus Garvey. It's a legacy and a history that is dissipating right in front of our eyes. And maybe this is why sometimes when I travel, I decide to get to certain places so that I don't have to speak like I'm gossiping. You can put this video out to the Jamaican government. It's a shame. You can put this video out to the British community, the Marcus Garvey centers, both in Europe and in America. It's a shame that we love talking and fantasizing, glorifying and pontificating figures when they are dead. But in their lives, we never respected them. Even in their death, we don't honor them. I remember him as a man who lived a lonely life, a man who fought very hard, a man whom the system destroyed. He had built up businesses, he had bought ships to move people back to Africa. Then before we noticed it, he was wrapped up in some governmental entanglement, including criminal charges and what. The man dies with almost next to nothing. But the vision that he had, it was, and it is still a vision that every diaspora African child needs to embrace and implement, even if the European and American Africans will not make it home. But coming home to visit must become possible. Visitations from the Caribbean to Africa, we need a direct flight from the Caribbean. To date, when I was coming back from Jamaica, it took me 36 hours to come from Jamaica into South Africa. We went via Brazil, Vananculus, and short back. And all the flights coming from the Caribbean, you must go via New York first and pay your taxes. Go via Frankfurt, pay taxes, or go via Middle East and pay taxes. During slave trade, we had straight flights or straight ships. Here, from here to St. Helena here, it's about 2.5, 3 hours. From here to the Caribbean, straight flight will not take you more than 5 hours. But there's no straight flight to date from the Caribbean to the African continent. And I'll give you the reason. Because the white monopoly capital is fully aware that should there be an open, quick access of the Caribbean world and the African world, these Africans may just unite. They will start sharing schools. They might start doing sports together without us. And they are guarding that space very jealously to make sure that the Africans don't unite. Marcus Garvey had a vision. It must be implemented. I thank you.
Wow. I didn't even know that, they're not even maintaining the memorial and the place in Jamaica. It breaks my heart. As a Garveyite, it really breaks my heart to hear that. Anyway, I think
that's why we travel. That's why we must see, and I think that we must visit these places. And if we have ability and capacity to preserve these dreams, take some of the literature that is in there of course, without abusing the family, print those copies, leave the royalties with the family. But some of his great writings, I think they need to form the basics of African education, particularly when it comes to the decolonization of the mind and appreciation of the era that he lived in. And maybe we can also reflect and say, are some of those problems and challenges that Garvey was facing, have they been resolved? And if they are not, what are the problems? And if they are being resolved, how are they being resolved? And ultimately, if that vision and dream is achieved and accomplished, it will rebuild the Africa that we want, making the Caribbean nations part of the 54 states of Africa Union. I think we can collect that to have a complete circle of Africans, both in diaspora and on mainland, coming up with the formation. So every time we talk about African unity, we must never forget that the African unity means Africans around the globe. And I think a unity for one is a unity for all. As such, the preservation of that memory keeps the dream alive.
Yes. If we can segue into what's happening, with the latest with Traoré. Well, since we talked, a lot has happened. So Langley has been demoted in Africom, and they've replaced him with a white boy. I'm always forgetting his name. And well, if you ask me, I think that Langley was demoted because he failed. I think he was put there to take down Captain President Ibrahim Traoré, and he handled it poorly. And I think that's why he was demoted, and they promoted this white boy to actually do the job. God forbid. I don't want anything to do with I don't want anything to happen to our captain, but the way I'm seeing, that's why they put this white boy. What do you think about that?
You can never trust a thief, and every time you share a meal with a thief, you must count your teeth, and when he shakes your hand, you must count your fingers after he's done with you. Whether he was demoted or he was promoted, I don't care. The American army is a huge demonic evil system. They maybe did not demote him, maybe they just gave him a new office, but still with the same mandate to work in another department. So the moving up and down of Langley is not the issue. The question is, has America changed its position in terms of strategizing, using evil techniques of doing regime change? Have they removed Traoré on the list of the threats of American interest? The question is no. Traoré is still a threat. And when you are a threat, the FBI and the CIA, they open a file on you. They organize the economic hitman strategies, economic issues, NGO issues, neighboring countries, internal policies, external policies, immigrations. The strategies are vast, from sanctions to many other forms, even mercenaries and poisoning and direct extermination of life. It's a full program that is all inclusive. So ever since the removal of Langley, I have not had any American policy shift in terms of their interests in Burkina Faso and the Sahel states. So the program is still there, alive and well, and Americans are that evil. In actual fact, the strategy does not change. It's just the administrations that they change. So until we hear a declaration that from the State House or from the Congress that there will no longer be a threat to the Sahel state and that Traoré is no longer a problem to them, because Trump the other day invited him to America, and what they do when they do such things, they make a declaration declaring you as a criminal, then they invite you into their space and they arrest you, and then they confiscate and etc. But of course, African countries being African countries, they don't think that this generation will actually take it upon themselves. So even Ibrahim Traoré has turned down a few of those offers into the NATO-controlled spaces because they will arrest you when you get there. So it's immaterial whether Langley was demoted or he was repositioned. And the new white boy that came there, maybe who is more ruthless, maybe who is more subtle, maybe who has more precision, he has been employed. But the question is that he has been employed to do what? Still, to run the Africom office. And what is Africom? Where is the headquarters of Africom? What are their objectives? Where are their camps? What are they doing in Africa? How many camps are they running? How many governments are they targeting? How much of the military strategies have they put into place? What are the economic policies that they've instituted? And what is their mandate to each and every one of these African leaders who are deemed to be a nuisance to the American public interest, whatever those interests are? So Africom is still here, alive and well, with a new leader, maybe with a new strategy, maybe with a new plan, maybe with a new mandate. But as far as I'm sitting right here, I've not heard any adjustment of their policy as far as protecting American interests and not allowing any person on the face of the earth to obstruct them as Americans to have what they want at any cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically, I think that they're tiptoeing in this a bit because, you know, I think they didn't expect the various people in Africa to protest and to stand in solidarity with Traoré, and even Africans in the diaspora to stand in solidarity with Traoré with the various protests and demonstrations that were happening. And now I think they know that, this guy, you know, he has a lot of support from Africans. We need to handle him very, very carefully because I think they didn't see that coming. They didn't see Africans standing in full solidarity with him. Yeah.
It must be put in context that you young people, maybe part of your research also is to get on your net and find out how many countries in Africa are actually doing military cooperations, training with America. You may want to find out how many military bases of America do we have in Africa. And in the backdrop of that, you may want to find out why are those military bases positioned where they are positioned. I know for sure one of the biggest military camps is in Djibouti, which is strategically positioned to manage that whole entire Arab, Africa, North Africa sort of space. Of a huge military base in Djibouti. And they've been trying around some of the Sahel states, including Nigeria, so that they can also monitor part of the nation. They tried something down in South Africa here around Botswana, and I'm glad President Boko has come out to clarify the eviction of that. And we also see that in other African countries, these French military bases, Portuguese military bases are being closed down, and people are coming together. This leads us to that uncomfortable conversation, which I'm starting to shout a little bit more. We need one African army. One African army, which then will mean that from each country, we can take our 5, 10, 15,000 soldiers per country. That already gives us more than 500,000, if not 1.5 soldiers standing strong. And they can take their guns and march the borders of Africa. Protect Africa from the foreigners that are coming through the land and make sure that those guns are not pointing at each other, but pointing at our enemies. With the one army, we can be able to get rid of these Americans. We can be able to silence the wars in Sudan, the wars in Somalia, the wars in Congo. And because a consolidated army will then have access to the sea, access to the land, and access to the air. That gives us point number 2. We need one satellite. All African presidents, put your monies together. $10 per country. Buy a satellite, put it in Africa. Free education, free internet for the people, and on top of that, of course, the element of security. We can also begin to do surveillances of our skies and our weapons and our anti-air missiles and other things. You cannot tell me that 54 countries amongst us, we even fail to make one nuclear bomb and make one gun that can shoot some aeroplanes. Yes, it's still primitive, but in unity we can grow. Above all the raw materials for making these weapons and instruments of war, we have everything on the continent. So it may mean again, pillar number 3, where education, training must come into place so that our students can now start learning how to become technologically competent so that we can challenge the rest of the world. And we are not ashamed to say this, because even right now, our black children are part of the Western system. They are in these schools.
Yeah.
Some of them are the best technicians in those spaces. Look at the cell phones that we did, the decoding of codes for the flights to the moon, who did the mathematical formulas, those black girls who have been doing marvelous work. And all these professors that Africa is released from Massachusetts to Oxford to Cambridge to, they're all Africans, children who are now actually running these institutions in the West. So the question is, how do we harness that education to fit into technology, to fit into military intelligence, to fit into communications? And then we can begin to talk about the American problem, because the one who has more data, more information, more satellite on you, even if you say you're a sovereign country, but they're supervising you without your permission. And they can do whatever they want to do. Africa is like a house that has a wall, but there's no door.
Yeah.
You know, so what's the use of the wall when actually there's no gate? It's the whole sky is open. The whole sky is open. Those that have money and satellites and drones, that's why Elon Musk is so eager to be selling free internet to Africa. And people think it's about internet. No, it's not about internet. It's security. It's surveillance. Once my satellite is on top of your country, I can see everything you are doing. I can see your aeroplanes. I can see your military bases. I can see your parliaments. I can see the houses of your presidents. I can even monitor you when you're driving for your meetings, and I can bomb you whenever I want to bomb you and kill you. So America wants that role, and they don't want to lose that space of power, because then that gives them the bulldog mindset of being supervisors and big boys, head boys of this world's economy. And they get that because of the violence that they have through the military strength that they've been able to accumulate. So yes, we may need to do a research and find out how many of the African countries are having these military bases, and what can we do as young people to begin to lobby our presidents and our leaders, particularly the young leaders. When they get into power, they must not get misled. They must not get deceived by the beast, and continue keeping these treaties that have oppressed us for such a long time. We may need to do what we did with Langley and start lobbying presidents who are housing American criminals or mercenaries amongst us in the name of military exchange and education, technological exchange, and all these things. And we know it has nothing to do with that.
All we can do is to wish the best. We are really observing Traoré, and in a certain interview, I said that all these African presidents, all these African presidents who we are just criticizing every day, who are not doing a good job, who are just embarrassing Africa. I said that they should just observe what Traoré is doing, and maybe they can pick something and just implement it into their countries. Like, for example, here in Kenya, Mzee, we are not doing well. Recently, I know you spoke about this, but you can also speak about it here. Kenya, we are now hosting the UN headquarters very soon. Before that, before that, the US ambassador came here and said that anything we do in Africa, we first started in Kenya. Then some few days later, Bill Gates is launching his 8-year contraceptive technology here in Kenya. I mean, And the president is just absorbing all these things, taking them in, even though we know Bill Gates is a he's a population controlist. And I think let's first start with the UN thing before we go to Bill. Well, this is first of all, what do you think about this move that Ruto just made?
It's amazing. It's amazing that you are going to be having the headquarters of the UN, but you are not going to control the UN. You don't even have a seat on the Security Council of the UN. So what are the benefits of having the headquarters of the UN in your country, yet you don't even have control and power over the same institution? And why are they coming here? Because New York is too expensive. The Netherlands is too expensive. So they want to come here and get cheap things. And when they come here, when the UN comes here, please cut this piece of the video and keep it, because you're going to need it for a very, very long time. When the UN comes to Kenya, it comes with all the rubbish that it has. And one of the biggest rubbish are the United Nations Human Rights Charters, with all the garbage and gibberish that you have been struggling with from New York. Kenya will be a gay capital. Kenya will be a lesbian capital.
Yeah.
You are going to be the forerunners of implementing the United Nations charters, from contraception to human and gay rights, to everything else that has been offending us, to IMF, to World Bank, to loans that Africans can't pay. And immediately you begin to think in that direction. We actually don't need United Nations here when Africa Union is not even functioning. For what? And if we are going to have the United Nations here in the backdrop of the ICC, then we need to make sure that we use these institutions for the reason that they must be used, to get justice for our people. The Mau Mau, the Maji Maji, the Chimrengas, Mkonto Wesizwe, the heads of Namibia, the bodies of Congo, the human rights breakages of Somalia, the refugees of Ethiopia and Eritrea, the hunger, starvation, the GMOs, genetically modified foods, all these things that have been causing Africa stress. So are you sure, yes, Kenya, that you want to house the very snake in your house that has been biting you all along? When all these wars were being fought in Africa, tell me one single thing that United Nations has done. These are the brothers of the same colonizers who were oppressing us. So can I ask you the question, why are you coming here? You abuse me and then you want to come and have your house in my house? To protect me from who? To protect me from who? From yourself. You are the abuser. Now come and stay in my house. To protect me from yourself. And I think you as young people, if the Gen Zs were alive in Kenya, I would actually challenge you to say, stand up. Stand up and be counted. This is an experiment. It has not yet been proved. We don't know the side effects. We don't know the ingredients of those vaccinations. 8 years of no children. You tell me that 8 years, you want to control what people do and what people do with their lives. You even want to control what is inside our underwear. That's how rude and arrogant you are. And if you wanted to do population control, why not go to India? Why not go to America and control it there? No, your population must grow, but ours must shrink. Yours must continue to grow, so that in another 10, 15 years, and imagine just for 8 years, Kenya's birth rate drops to 5 or 10, 15%. You have lost a whole generation, 30 years to repair on that. There will be a time, another 10, 15 years from now, when your age group will no longer have the young people who are the future, and you'll have all the old people who are too tired to think and too tired to fight. And once you have that gap of growth, look at Italy. It's literally shrinking. 70% of the people are retirement and going to the grave. What do you do with old people when all they want is retirement? Those cities are collapsing. There's no more energy to work in the economy, innovation, and etc. So young people in Kenya, please say no to Bill Gates. Start campaigns. And if your president is doing so, ask me a question. Did Ruto go to the parliament and table the Bill Gates bill and allow the people that elected him into power to debate if they want this vaccination, yes or no? I'll give you for free. So Ruto is doing what he wants to do because you put him in power. Now, that's where power becomes corrupt, because you begin to think that you are more powerful than the people who put you in power. Even this issue of the United Nations coming to Kenya, did we have a motion passed in parliament where the nation is debating, do we want this in the country, yes or no? Maybe it happened, I don't know. But if people have entrusted you with authority to make decisions, can you also come back and consult them? Particularly when you're making decisions that will not only impact you, but impact the nation and the neighboring countries, and worse still, that impact the entire African continent. Are you so happy as Kenya to be called the head boys of all innovations and inventions, even the evil ones? Are you so excited to think that the white man likes Kenya so much that they will make your economy stable so that they can destabilize all of us? And you are all happy to run around as Kenyans that know we are the brightest on the continent. You have actually become the most stupid in the continent. Your wisdom has made you fools.
Yeah.
Too clever for nothing. You have become too clever with poison. And this poison, after it has destroyed you, it will destroy all of us also. I want to challenge the Gen Zs. Say no to United Nations. Say no to your soldiers in Haiti. Say no to vaccinations from Bill Gates. Say no to the Chinese who are abusing and taking your land. Say no to politicians who are stealing your land in the name of being powerful. Say no to millionaire politicians who are stealing state funds to enrich themselves. Put your fingers on real issues as young people, because if you allow them to take away your land, you'll have sold the future for your own children.
Wow. And anytime I get to a public forum and speak to young Kenyans, because I'm a Gen Z as well, I normally tell them, because Gen Zs are so agitated about the bad leadership here in Kenya. And I say, fine, we should focus on that. But as we are focusing on that, let's put the same energy, or probably even more, on the puppeteers. And now this Bill Gates thing is happening. This UN thing is happening, and I'm not seeing any protests. People, and it just goes to show you that here in Kenya, we still don't have that. We are not conscious enough to know the workings of white supremacy and how it works.
I want to ask you a simple question, which you must take to the other young people. We build it into a status. When Bill Gates is vaccinating these women, who benefits from that program? How much will it cost Kenya in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term? And maybe while you're still on it, find out what kind of agreement has your president signed with Bill Gates, which you don't know. You don't know as civilians.
Yeah.
What is it that they've given him? What is it? If he has been given nothing, he must come out and say, I've not received anything. And if you have not received anything, for what benefit is this program that you're talking about? Who wants to vaccinate cows and sterilize cows in Africa? We have been here for longer than the white people. We have a long history, millenniums and millenniums over. You cannot come to Africa right now and say you have solutions for Africa. What solutions? Profitable solutions. Maybe he can answer first for COVID. Same Bill Gates. He can answer for COVID. What did he do with all the money from COVID? So you kill us during COVID, you've made some profit. You want to come back and say you're donating that money back to us. Who is a fool here? Who is fooling a who here? You steal my cows, you go and sell them and come back and say you are donating cows to me. Bill Gates is donating 79 billion to Africa, and some stupid little Africans get excited. Oh, he's bringing development. What development? He steals from you. You bury your uncle and he's giving you vaccinations, makes money out of you, comes back and he's donating the same money. Blood money. You can't sell our consciences at a level of foolishness like that. He wants to make some mosquitoes out of drones and mosquitoes that can be running around and injecting people. And of course, amongst us, with these young people who are IT junkies, who are so excited about some of these ideas. And you don't know these mosquitoes are actually a whole military base. So what happens if they release 50 million mosquitoes and then they bite all of you and they kill you? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You give him an army base of mosquitoes. And if they vaccinate these cattle, what are they? They want to put the MNR thing again. They want to, the same thing, the same chemicals they wanted to put in us during vaccination. Now they are putting it into the meat, so that when they are putting it into the contraception by force, so that ultimately you can actually have these robotic human beings who are clotted with heavy metals. And these chemicals are able to assemble themselves in your body. It's like a magnet. So they can actually make a chip in your body without you knowing. What is this all about? Honestly speaking, what is this all about? If he wants to vaccinate himself, Bill Gates, for crying out loud, he can vaccinate his ears and his head and his bum and leave us alone. We're okay here. You vaccinate us for what? What do you want? A murderer of the highest note. He can vaccinate his wife and children and vaccinate himself and his friends in the pharmaceuticals there. We're not sick at all. We're not sick. We are doing just fine. We are doing just fine.
Yeah.
Without him, actually, we are just okay. And if we see any African president becoming too comfortable with Bill Gates, we will start these campaigns to decampaign them from power. I'll put my words where my mouth is. If it means that the pharmaceutical companies get rid of us, so be it. But they will kill me shouting. I will not be here quiet. If these chemicals and these vaccinations, if Bill Gates was frank enough, he would bring these vaccinations to our academic institutions, to our universities. We also look at them. We learn about them. We can supplement them and see how best we can work with them. You don't bring all these things and things for free. Your governments will be paying through there. No, South Africa the other day ended up 500 million on COVID. Now the government is owing with interest of more than 6 to 7% per month. How much are they owing now? They've not even started paying yet. And before we finish paying for that, another one is coming in. So is this about development or managing Africa through debt?
It's depressing even to think about it. But back to the UN thing, Maponga, what do you think? I mean, because I saw you in your video, you said that when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to things like this, it's all about leverage. You give me this and I give you this. But it seems like with this UN thing, we are just on the giving end. We are never on the receiving end. Why are we not in the Security Council? And you said all those things. Why are we not having veto power in the UN now that you want to set up your headquarters here in Kenya? And
no, You cannot have a Security Council seat because you don't have nuclear weapons. You don't have nuclear weapons. Number one, you are not united. Number three, you are not a threat to anybody. There's nothing you can do as Africans that threatens global politics. So you are a non-entity. You are not a subject for conversation. You are an object of observation. We will tell you what we want you to do. When world leaders meet to discuss the security of the world, Africa must not be there. Africans have not been included for a simple reason that they are not a threat in any way. The only threat that we pose to the world is when we refuse to send them our raw materials, our uraniums, our coal, our copper, our lithiums. And yeah, that would be the least, or even maybe threaten their embassies that are here in terms of making it unsafe for their ambassadors to come here. The last threat is when we refuse to participate in their gay and lesbian issues, so that when their people are here and abusing our children, we must not arrest them. They must be free to perform whatever they want to perform and go back. Other than that, I don't see Africa being a threat in America in any way. Anyway, and the last one could be that we could be a threat if we start becoming, our food sustainability becomes viable. Then it means that we stop importing. We stop consuming their goods. So that again hits on their economy, because you have all these food chains, the Kentuckys, the Nando's, the McDonald's, the Chicken Lickens, all these people, and because they have a treaty that all the food that they must be ate in those restaurants must be approved by FAO, which is sitting in Canada, which approves the food standards of all these chain stores. So what does that mean? That even when KFC comes to Kenya, the chickens in Kenya cannot fit into the KFC standards unless they go and register with FAO in Europe and in Canada. So it means that the chickens will be coming from Argentina and from Canada and from themselves. You are so happy that we have Kentucky in Kenya. They've created jobs, blah, blah, blah. Pile of nonsense. Even your tomatoes and food and etc., if it does not meet the international standards, it won't make it onto their shelves. McDonald's. So there are containers that are coming in through Mombasa with frozen burgers that are being sold in the country. So it becomes a threat when you as young people finally wake up to discover this is just a circus of these bilateral multinational agreements and etc. And these things mean absolutely nothing. Because if they were really serious in terms of business, then they will be shedding off some of those contracts to our farmers, to our suppliers, so that we can fit into the food chain. But no, Argentina, Brazil, those companies have long-standing contracts with these organizations that they'll be supplying chickens for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So here you are eating chickens that were killed almost 6 months ago, and they own the sheep. So we have organizations that are not here to profit us, but to milk the resources of the country. And it is made easy when the government does not put policies in place that address the real problem. Between me and you young men, you're going to be hearing this loud and clear. Every African country that is deemed to be developing offers the best opportunity for entrepreneurship to solve those very problems that we have. Those are business opportunities. But when education does not give us the right tools to solve our problems, then our education becomes passports of escaping our own economies and going west. So our education is destroying us, because when we finish school, we are part of the problem now of the unemployed. But you went to school to study. What were you studying? And you come back with no solutions, and you add more problems to the government. We need institutions that would equip the young people with tools, solutions, funding, projects, group them together. We have a problem in Kenya. What is it? It's a problem of roads. Okay, engineers come here, set up a conglomerate. How are you going to solve this problem in the future? People discuss, people work. By the time they finish school, they are working on the project. They have water problem, solve that problem. Food security issues, work on that problem. We have solutions coming out of our institutions. Not I hereby apply for a job. I hereby. I work under pressure. I'm a team player.
Yeah.
So the problems are still here. The problems are still here. The students are here. The teachers are here. But the three of them have never sat in one room to say, okay, how can we solve this problem in Djibouti, in Zimbabwe, in Kenya, in South Africa? We have a problem. What can we do to solve it? Then you spend your 4 years studying solutions, not studying Hitler when he was born, memorizing dates of when was the war of Napoleon. What do you do with that? And they say you have failed because you can't remember the date when Napoleon was born. Then you fail. Is that education? You come back from school with a head full of birthdays of Hitler. Then you are educated because you know the birthdays. Tell me what will you solve with Hitler's birthday? What problem can you solve in Africa?
I agree. And so let me tell you something. I have a degree in Bachelor of Commerce Marketing, and all those years in high school and primary and even the nursery, whatever. And I still don't know how to do my taxes. I'm still learning the stock market, the stocks and bonds and everything. I mean, some of the handiwork, like you leave school and you're like, how comes I don't know how to do my taxes? Number one, I have to go to a accountant or to a specialist to do taxes for me. And such things that you should teach children from when they're young on how to master the stock market, how to do taxes, how to understand real estate. You and even with Pan-Africanism and all these things that that I know about our heroes, about our Pan-African heroes and white supremacy, I had to teach myself after school. So you ask yourself, what is school teaching me? And
I want to add something for you there. Walk around Nairobi as much as you can. Look at small businesses. Catalog them together. Sit down and put a marketing strategy around those businesses. Take your skills and invest in these small businesses. Packaging, networks, access to market, e-platforms. Use your skills to empower other Africans. And tell me if you can develop 100 incubating businesses that will help with business cards, telephones, marketing, materials, etc., branding, packaging, and you can help 100 businesses. Tell me at the end of 3-4 years, those businesses will not afford to pay you a salary that even Microsoft cannot pay you. Now, that's investment. You have not been taught how to invest in your own people. How do you take your skills, what you already know how to, and walk up to those matatus or walk up to those people selling their furnitures on the sides of the road and look at them and do a proper business model? Guys, if we are going to sell our furniture internationally, we're going to be taking containers from here to Europe. This is how we're going to package these things. This is how we're going to brand them. It's the quality that we need. And you connect those people to market. You already know how to do that. And instead of you waiting for a job to come to you, why not? And some of these people I'm telling you about are your brothers. They are your sisters. They are your cousins. In some certain cases, they're even your mothers and your fathers. It's even a shame that the money that was used to send you to school came from these primitive businesses. But all of a sudden now you don't have a job. You can't even go back to your own business, your own family business that assisted you to achieve your degree and put your skills and upscale that business.
Yeah, that's heavy. That's heavy. You should apply your education into actionable items. I agree. Trust me. And it's so, education is really, really like, I heard there's an interview you did in, I don't know, in Zambia, and you were telling the interviewer, like, what does it benefit children to learn about how many legs a grasshopper has, how many legs a cockroach has, and all these things. And it's not bad to learn them. It's not bad. It's not bad. But as you're teaching them that, teach them life skills, teach them stocks, bonds, even a trade skill. Yeah, Mzee, let me tell you, even us Gen Zs, we don't know how to farm. We don't know how to dig. We don't know how to change we don't know how to fix plumbing, lighting. Like we Gen Zs, we are very
I actually said when I was with Professor Lumumba that any young person who cannot feed themselves must not speak in English.
Any young man who can't feed himself is not allowed to speak in English. Could you just explain that, Mzee? Explain that. Yeah.
You speak in English for what? For what? Does English put food in your stomach? I'm saying there are better skills that you must have. Then you can speak in English, but you cannot be in the midst of hunger, busy fantasizing and speaking in English. You have specialized in the wrong things. Know how to plant food. Know how to look after yourself. What does English help you with? What does poetry help you with if you can't feed yourself? For what?
That's true. That's true. Wow. I know, and even the last episode you said a hungry man should not speak in English. Yeah, so that's true.
I'm not saying that they must not speak in English. I'm saying fundamental to life are life skills that I deem to be far much more important than our flamboyancy in terms of language. Language is secondary. Primary is food. You would die of hunger with English in your mouth and wind in your stomach.
As we close, because I'd like you to close by giving us advice as Gen Zs in Kenya and Gen Zs all over Africa and all over the global African race. Speaking about the global African race, I don't know if you've been seeing this. There's been an online beef, of course, that is engineered by these tech companies about the African American versus African beef that's going on. And basically, African Americans are not, agreeing with Africans and vice versa. But in reality, what's happening is that the beef is there a bit, but it's being fueled by Instagram, by TikTok, to make it something that is huge, but it's not really huge, but it's existent. Now, what would you say to some African Americans or some African diasporans, and of course here continental Africans, who don't believe in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, who don't believe in the spirit of uniting? What do you say about this beef that's kind of going on now?
Yeah. See, many of our African young people, I don't blame them. You are looking at 3 or 4 years of cradle roll, 6, 7 years of primary school, 4, 6 years of high school, 4, 5 years of university, 2 years of postgraduate, 25 years gone with your brains being brainwashed constantly. And while you are not in school, you are in church. You are not in church, you are in front of a TV. You're not in front of a TV, you're on your phone. You're on your phone, the whole world is bombarding you with data, information, misinformation, altering your mind, insulting your culture, condemning your history, creating new models, new idols, new frameworks of thinking, creating new visions and dreams of what you want to achieve. You tell me, after 25 years of having your brain brainwashed, will you be able to come back here and identify yourself as an African? The answer is no. And on top of that, of the misinformation, becomes convenient, as I said earlier on about Jamaica and Africa and the Caribbean, that who benefits when Africans are divided? Who stands to benefit when Africans are united? Both sides of the coin, you can see that the earlier one, the enemy will continue to thrive in our division, but Africa will unite and be able to break the back of the Westerners. The Americans who are in Europe, the Americans who are in America, I can say it loud and clear. Many of them are now just coconuts. They are brown and in color, but their whole world is a white world in their minds. They don't think like Africans. They don't feel like Africans. They don't wish for anything from Africa. They have their houses there, they have their cars, and the media that is coming out of Africa is of dilapidated people and housing, mosquitoes and flies, sewage water that is leaking everywhere, shacks and what, and they look at themselves. Surely they feel like they're better Africans than the Africans that are here. And of course, that is the Africa that CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, they want to show the world. You cannot show the world wastelands in Kenya, hotels that are looking into the forests. You can't show them the beauty of the Serengetis and show them Kigali, show them Harare and show them Ghana and Nigeria, Lekki. You can't show them the beautiful Cape Town and show them that Africa is actually, in some cases, even more civilized than Britain itself, with cleaner spaces. Those houses, I lived there, they're cardboard box houses. Cardboard box houses. And they call it Britain, first world. People are living each other in columns like small little match boxes. Here we have a whole 1 hectare, 2 hectares to yourself with animals and palaces. People have built palaces in Africa here. If we can lift some of those palaces and put them in Europe there, even the kings and queens cannot afford those houses. But the picture of a hungry Ethiopian has sat on the internet for the very long time, with that child with a back that is bent and the vulture is behind wanting to eat that child. You know, that picture there of the terrible Africa. That picture is more than 30, 40 years old. But every time people talk about Africa, that is the picture that they want the rest of the world to know about. And again, I want to blame ourselves. I want to blame the government, but mostly ourselves, that we have become also the agents of portraying that bad picture about our countries. That's why I travel some of these places and take beautiful pictures, beautiful parts of town, beautiful houses, beautiful streets. Yes, we still have problems, but there's no way we can develop investor confidence if we actually are the ones who are involved in terms of decampaigning our own countries. So the beef is there from misinformation. The beef is there for political convenience. The beef is there because some people are simply ignorant. They are the people who are being asked, which is the poorest country in the world? And they go, Africa. You know?
Yeah.
To them, Africa is a small little village. Some of them don't even know it's a continent. They think it's just a village. You meet some of them when we travel around the world. Oh, hi, where are you from? I'm from Zimbabwe. Oh, yes, from Zimbabwe. I have my friend in Nigeria. I have a friend in Ghana. Do you know him? Like, really? Really? I would know a friend of yours in Ghana, 1.9 billion people, and you're giving me a name in Ghana. I'm in Harare. Will you know him? Like, how naive can you be? How naive can you be? So do you guys sit with lions and do you have monkeys and snakes that are in your houses? I mean, you look at them and say, guys, no man, the misinformation in our generation is not funny. It's not funny. And unfortunately, it is deliberate and it is intentional.
What can we do to finally unite as a global African race? What can we do? Because we need to have each other's backs.
We lost an opportunity but we'll get it again. We lost an opportunity during our liberation struggles, because you remember during that time, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia, Malawi, Namibia, South Africa were all at war. And we managed to have our military base. All those countries I've mentioned had their military base in Tanzania. There. All those political parties, ANC, ZANU-PF, Frelimo, UWAT, all of them. So war brought us together. But peace has separated. I don't know. What can we do? Maybe we need a catastrophe. Maybe we need a disaster to unite us. But if we were more sensible, we would then begin to remove our presidents and begin to find a single agenda leadership. Of course, I will not mix my words, under the model of Gideon Boko, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Mama Nandi Ndaitwa, and other progressive African presidents who are beginning to show the direction in which we want to go. What can we do? Let's start campaigning and putting leaders in power who have this agenda in mind, and they will help us to achieve what Kwame Nkrumah and Kambarage and some of our stalwarts, Sinkaras and Lumumbas, had in mind. Until we do something about that vision, it will just remain as a vision and a dream. And every generation born of Africans will be born in poverty when there is so much wealth. But the first PIN number we need to understand: one Africa, one passport, one stock exchange, one satellite, one army, one currency, one curriculum, one language, a commercial language, of course, without losing our language, so that we can trade, do business right across the continent without feeling that language is a hindrance. And there could be other more important, factors: food, sustainability, water preservation, conservation, and other critical models of development, so that our development does not end up as a European development, which then creates mega cities. And in those mega cities, people are beginning to drink sewage water and breathing corrupt and contaminated air. So we need to come up with more progressive, organic, historical cities of the past, which could have fresh waters flowing through those cities, like in Berlin, fresh waters flowing through our cities like the Great Zimbabwe, where our wells could still drink from them, where our mining was ecological friendly. And these factors, for me, will speak not only of our education, but the quality and the nature of the vision that we have, and how do we want to live in that future and leave a legacy for our children. And any form of development without ecological intelligence is destruction. I thank you.
Wow, Mzee, before you go, what would you like to say to Gen Zs? Because, like I said, a lot of young people look up to you. The last episode, I really got a lot of feedback from mostly young people, Gen Zs. Kenyans, especially Kenyan young people, they love you, Maponga. They love you. What can you say? Ever since we talked that day, we had a couple of protests. Tens of young people died, and it's tough. It's tough. Like, what can you say to young people all across Africa? Yeah.
Be careful, particularly in Kenya. Be very, very careful, because you've already shown and demonstrated the strength you have as young people. But one weakness is amongst you right now, is that the enemy has found you again. And the Gen Zs are now divided between the Kikuyus and the Luos. We are back to that stupid little political mischief of tribalism. You must know that when Kenya succeeds, we all succeed. When Kenya fails, we all fail. Let us develop unity beyond cultural barriers. Let us not inherit the enemies of our fathers and make them our enemies also, particularly when it comes to cultural understanding. That as young people, you studied together in these colleges and universities. You grew up together with Luos and Masais, Kikuyus, and etc. How can you now, in your old age, go back and pick up the bonds of hatred from your fathers about each other and continue to destroy your own country? I would like to challenge the young people. Let's begin positive talks amongst ourselves. Let's work together positively. Let's concretize our agenda items and some of these issues that we have raised, from United Nations to Bill Gates to transformation even of the legal system itself, and make use of some of the good hands that you have, like Professor PLO, big friend of mine, a warehouse of resource of information. But I've noticed some of you young people, they don't respect him as much, but man is loaded with data that you will need to navigate. He has the experience and the knowledge that you will need. And the best thing we can always do to achieve the future. Young people, collect the wisdom of the old people. Combine it with the energy of the youth. Nothing will stand in your way. You will achieve what you want to achieve. Stand on the shoulders of the old people. You will see far much further than philosophers on their toes. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mzee. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you. Thank you.
Sante.